Bonjour and welcome to my podcast, My Way of Thinking, or Mawat for short, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. I hope you're all doing well. I know it's been a bit of a shitty week, to say the least, with lockdown, things happening and no one's sure what's going on. And it's a bit of a kerfuffle. Kerfuffle, I like that word. I don't know where's that come from. Anyway, I do digress. Now, my way I think is all about us, amazing human beings that all have a story to tell. Now, those stories can vary massively, but with the guests I'll be interviewing, you'll always be able to take a little bit of advice or insight in how extraordinary we can all be. It's been a long day. Now, remember, 4 rules: 1, no bullshitting; 2, no judging; 3, no negativity; and 4, have fun. Now, today I'm talking to Taylor James, host of the great podcast, The Waffle Shop. Love speaking to him as a local lad. We really clicked and had a right laugh. Now, there are important themes here. Of course, there are. He struggled with his mum being very ill, but came through it the other side by using the podcast as a way of therapy. So, you know, fair play to him. I just really enjoyed this, so make sure you're listening right to the end. This is me speaking with Taylor. Okay, so welcome to My Way of Thinking. I have a brilliant guest on today. This is Taylor. How are you, Taylor, this morning?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. An absolute honour. Well, that's a bit too much, really. Pleasure. That's
yeah,
better.
wow. Yeah.
Always
Calm down.
I know, yeah. Try and make you feel comfortable before I slaughter you. Not really. I'm joking. Don't hang up. No one's hanged up on the podcast yet. Can you imagine doing a podcast and the screen goes blank? You're like,
There's been a few times that it's got to that point on mine. So.
Maybe I'll try it one day. Get a guest and just try it. Someone I hate. But I don't.
Should we have like a race and see who could get like hung up on first?
Yeah, we should do that. We could do it on Zoom, couldn't we? We could have like 4 rectangles, one underneath you, one underneath me, and that's it. Planned. Right. So Taylor Patterson, thank you ever so much for coming on. Local lad, as myself, which we've just found out. Well, we knew before. But I'm across the border. But we won't say where we're from because that'll confuse people listening across, in other countries. Middle of England, that's the best way to say it. So anyway, when I get my guests on, I always like to start, because we can get quite deep in the middle of the podcast, I like to start with some funny stories. I'll do read the news, but it annoys me that I enjoy reading the news because the stories are so shite at the minute. So when I see funny ones, I love it. So let me tell you about a couple which will crack you up today. Right, well, I hope it'll crack you up. Right, now the first one is about this couple. They were going to get married. Of course, we're locked down. That's all gone tits up. And what they did, they left their wedding planner in stitches after revealing their idea for getting around coronavirus restrictions and to have 50 guests attend their big day. Currently in England, only 30 people are permitted to attend a wedding. But the rule caused a bit of an issue for Romany and Sam Rodney Smith from Bramley, Guildford. And at the time of planning the wedding, they had 100 guests. So they were initially to get married in July, but pushed it back to August. But because of social distancing, they were unable to have a full wedding reception. So they did end up having 50 guests without breaking the law. You know what they did? Instead of having loved ones in person, they spent £2,000 on cardboard cutouts of their guests.
No way.
The pictures are awesome. So what they did, you can get these life-size cardboard cutouts.
Yeah.
$2,000 on them. And we had about 100 guests on our guest list, Ramoni said. But when coronavirus hit, we had to rework our plans. At the end of the day, we just wanted to get married. One of my bridesmaids lives in Nashville, and she was unable to attend. So we joked about having her as a cardboard cutout. We got all our guests to send a picture of us, of them, and it went from there. The wedding planner loved it. It worked out the same price as it would have been to have them all here, and we saved on booze.
I think that is the way to go for all family occasions.
Genius. Yeah. You don't have to worry about conversation either.
No, there's always like guaranteed to be, especially in my family, there's always guaranteed to have some argument.
Yeah, and
the leftover buffet.
Yes,
there's more leftover food.
Yeah, you always get someone who robs the pineapple sausage sticks, which really.
I thought you meant the buffet because I'm that person who steals. I
Oh,
went to my
yeah.
mate's engagement party, and he woke up next to his like future wife. I woke up next to like trays of sausage rolls, Scotch eggs. And my sister was a vegetarian at the time.
Yeah,
and I even robbed a tray of vegetarian food.
That's hardcore. That is hardcore.
So, yeah, I'm that person.
I love the old buffets. They don't do them like that anymore, do they?
No, definitely not.
But if you get a chance, have a look just Google it. But there's a picture of her with her bridesmaids, and 3 of them are alive and real. One's just a cardboard cutout, and it's just perfect. It looks so funny. And of course, some of the guests sent in really ridiculous pictures of themselves, like wearing really ridiculous T-shirts and in their slippers. So yeah, love that story. I think more people should do that, definitely. So that's the first one. Then the next one, not very organised, am I? Here we go. The next one is this one, which made me laugh. Now, you talk about vegetarian and vegan, which is a big thing now. I mean, vegetarian has been around for a long time. Veganism seems to be going through the roof. And that's great if you can stick to that kind of thing. I'm terrible at stuff like that.
I can't.
Yeah. I love food. I tried to become vegetarian once, and at the end of the week, I went, there you go, I've done it. It was easy. I didn't realise that you couldn't include fish. So I've been having fish and chips all week.
For that.
So I was like,
At least you tried. I
did. I was pescatarian for a week. There you go.
That's the word.
Anyway, a chef at a restaurant in Australia shared a screenshot of an Uber Eats order that included a cheeky request, making a slight change to a vegan burger. Now, the order was received by the restaurant in Australia from a customer named Aidan, with a line cook sharing a screenshot on Reddit saying possibly the best Uber request ever. Now, what this guy had done, he'd put a request. So what happened is his wife's vegan, which obviously she makes him be vegan. You're going to have a vegan burger. And what he'd done, he sent a message to the chef saying, can you put me a slice of cheese in there?
Amazing.
Crafty little slice of cheese. Bless him. This is the note he wrote. He says, I know it's a little weird for a vegan burger, but I'm not actually vegan. My missus just won't let me eat the beef burger. She said, on that, so can you pretty please put a little bit of cheese on my vegan burger and keep it quiet? Have an awesome night. How good's that?
I don't think I could be with someone who made me.
I know,
be able to have me. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, loads of people commented, said my heart goes out to this king. A second said, homie gets 2 slices and some bacon hidden between them.
Light a candle for him.
I know, bless him. I feel for him. He needs to get rid of his missus. I mean, come on. And anyway, Rob, one more story. Now, I usually say 2, but I spotted this one. And this one, oh my God, this one made me wince. So you'll have to get ready for this one. University student Sirapal Muscata ran out of the bathroom with his pants around his ankles when he found blood spurting out. And guess what that was from? I know this is going to make your mind blown. A teenager has been rushed to the hospital after a snake bit his penis as he sat on the toilet. Yeah, this guy went to the loo on Tuesday evening when he felt a sudden searing pain in his manhood. The university student looked down and saw a python with its jaw clamped round the tip of his penis. 18, yelled in terror as he ran out of the bathroom with his pants around his ankles in Thailand, north of Bangkok. Don't know what that's got to do with anything. The teenagers... Now, this is the worst bit, okay? So that's horrendous. You're going to be, about odds faint.
There's worse.
Yeah, there's worse than that. Listen to this. The teenager's panic-stricken mother calmed him down before the paramedics rushed in. And doctors gave him 3 stitches, so it could have been a lot worse. But his mum's proper on it. She said, I saw the boy and was really worried for him. Mum, can you check this? That's worrying.
Yeah.
He said it was only a small snake, but its bite was so strong. I hope that my penis can recover. Oh, that did make me look. You know what?
I don't know. I've got hints of these kind of stories. You know, when those people who like go to hospital when they tripped and fell on something.
Yeah.
I'm getting that kind of vibe from this story. I've been
Yeah.
to Thailand, I've been to Bangkok, and I've seen some of the stuff that goes on in that place.
I know.
So
I know.
I'm not pointing any fingers, but
Mate, I can't believe
kind of vibe.
You'd sit on a toilet and not see a snake in
you
the
would
bottom
check
of the toilet.
Everything first.
Of course you do.
This is, to be fair, that's what's always put me off about going to Australia and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that film years ago. Do you remember Anacrophobia, or the one about the spiders?
Spiders,
yeah. And John Goodman's sitting on a toilet and there's a spider on the bottom of the toilet.
Yeah, no.
And that mess. No. To this day, I always look out for tarantulas when I'm sitting on the toilet. Yeah, public toilets.
I won't sit on the toilet if there's a moth in the bathroom. So anything like that, no chance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not being funny. This guy's going to have serious psychological problems for the rest of his life, isn't he? Bless him.
I can't imagine like running out and like, Mum, look what's...
Yeah, Mum, look at this. I'd hide it. You know what I mean? Anyway, there's a picture of his mum there, and she's like,
"Oh, he's lucky." Picture of what?
He's lucky he didn't have the lot.
Oh God, you look, it's not like venomous because
I know. Well, they said that. They said that if it had been a cobra, it would have been all over. It'd have been waking up a girl. So, anyway, right, that's enough jovial stuff. Let's get serious. Right, that did make me laugh. Anyway, lovely to have you on, Taylor. Now, we've got loads to cover. But the main thing is, obviously, you've got this brilliant podcast, which we're going to talk about, and you've had your struggles with mental health and things like that. But obviously, tell us a little bit about growing up. You're a Coventry lad. What was growing up like? Was it just a normal childhood? Did you have a nice childhood?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as obviously 90s kid. So, you know, there was a lot of, my mum and dad were very big kind of, I don't say party animals. They weren't, yeah, they were. Like, they were, you know, like out all weekends. Like, I grew up on like, you know, those social club kind of Panda Pops,
the best.
Thingy. Yeah. So, you know, we all grew up all fine. So, no, it didn't do any of us harm. But yeah, typical lad, you know, football games at the weekend. Yeah.
Did you go college? Dad likes such a... Did you go college and uni? What did you want to do when you left school?
So I did, when I was in school, I did like the typical like media, IT, that kind of stuff. Then when I left, I actually went straight into work. Because I worked at Coombe Abbey Hotel. It was my first job. Yeah. And then I kind of got a taste for money and stuff like that. And to be honest, like, it was my biggest regret, like still to this day, is not continuing in education. So stay in school, kids. Because but I mean, it doesn't work for everyone, but it's my biggest regret.
I mean, I do understand where you're coming from with that, but then I'm pretty old school where I did exactly the same. I left school, I went for it, I partied hard. But what I did do, it was like an apprenticeship. And because some people just don't take to school, so I always say apprenticeships are brilliant things to, if you don't want to be sat in a classroom or go to uni, an apprenticeship where you're learning on the job is also, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I didn't really do any of that. I was like you, really, just left, went into work, had some great weekends, but then you look back and you think, could have been Prime Minister.
I think especially now, like doing the stuff that I'm doing, because I feel like I think there's a lot of aspects of my life that obviously we'll talk about in a bit. Like I feel like I'm catching up on, like a little bit of a late bloomer, if you like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I kind of just applied myself a little bit more. But at the time, like, you know, you've got money in your hands, like you're like, yeah, fuck it, and like I'm out for a few beers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I know exactly what you mean. But I always try and be positive and look back and think, I don't regret that because that's made me who I am today. So wherever you are today,
the friends you've got, so
so agree. You know, and it just makes me feel a bit better instead of thinking I'm a bit of a loser.
That's what I tell myself every day.
To be fair, if I'd have gone uni, I'd have probably ended up dead anyway. So
this is what I think. Everything that was supposed to happen has happened. So
yeah, true.
Led me to this point.
Yeah. So you went to work. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do this kind of, putting myself out there. Like, obviously, podcasts weren't around when, when I was obviously growing up, but it was always that kind of field of work. But I never had the balls to do it. I'd never literally had, I was like, I know that I could do something like that, but I've always held myself back. I've always no, I'm the one who looks after everyone. I'm not the one who kind of has the success. I'm not the one who, allows himself to kind of be happy, or I don't set myself up to fail, which I've learned is one of my biggest traits.
Fear. I was talking to a lady the other day from Japan, and we were both saying fear is terrible. And it's one of those things. Obviously, you've overcome that now, but being uncomfortable in uncomfortable situations, which I've been in numerous ones, and pushing yourself over that boundary is horrible. But when you do it, don't you feel great afterwards?
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of, it's getting out of your comfort zone, isn't it? It's that kind of, it's like, oh, well, what was I worried what was I worried for?
Yeah. It's your mind. It's just your mind playing up. Your ego saying, don't do it. People will laugh at you, And I think one thing about this day and age is great is there's a lot more go and do it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas years ago, your mum stayed at home and did dinner. Your dad went to work. He came home.
Exactly.
Now it's like, just go for it. Do whatever you want. And
do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
It is. And I think, even if we're in this kind of generation, even if you mess up and you make an absolute tit of yourself, they'll be talking about someone else tomorrow. So it's fine.
Yeah,
it's only 24 hours. It's fine. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, definitely. So you always felt that you wanted to sort of talk media wise. So what did you actually do then work wise?
The complete opposite. I just went into kind of IT work. I now manage a small team, and we deal with fulfillment requests, and it's the complete opposite on what I actually want to be doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it pays the bills, and I do actually enjoy my day job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everyone has that kind of dream role in their head, don't they, that they kind of want to get to.
Oh God, yeah.
And I mean, who knows? Never. I mean, the one thing that the past few years has taught me that it's you can't rush this kind of thing. Things will happen when they're meant to happen. So, and I think that is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from it, is just kind of trust the process. So maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand that. I mean, from my perspective in the sort of filmmaking business, it's just you're talking decades and decades, and then you might not make it. But what I've always said, and it's difficult for my wife to understand and people like that, because they don't understand, and I totally get that, because they haven't got my stupid brain rolling round. But I've always said, at least if I've tried, you can turn around to your friends, family, your kids, and say, well, all right, I never became rich and famous, but I tried and I enjoyed trying, and that's the key. But I think if you think, right, I want to be this, and you get too wound up on it, then it can ruin your mental state.
Well, I have a friend that has that kind of mentality, that if it doesn't make a success overnight, they'll be like, no, I'm not doing that, I'm on to the next thing. And then all it kind of does is kind of give you that mentality of that you're never going to win, because you're not applying yourself. But I'm in that mentality of I would rather regret something that I have done than what I haven't done. I mean, it's took me a long time to get to that point, but now I'm like, do you know what, if I make a tit of myself, fair be, but at least I can then turn around to the day when I come to have children, well, do you know what, I did that, I loved it, made a tit of myself, but if you want to do it, you want to experience it, go for it. I don't want to be that kind of parent who, I think, because I wasn't held back by my parents, that's not what I'm saying at all here, but you know, they did all that kind of typical like sesh, all that kind of stuff, which I don't do that. But I've always felt like, well, I want to be the opposite of that. So I've gone to gigs, I've gone to the festivals, I've gone to like the holidays.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's left me like skint quite a lot of the time, but I mean, it's like I've got the memories there.
Yeah, what a life.
That's what's important. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, but it's not going to make you bloody happy. Well, it would help.
Yeah. People who say that never have money, and that's
yeah, exactly.
I totally agree with you. I always say, you know, people in show homes and trying to get the house right. I mean, you know, I'm sitting in the man cave. I built this through blood, sweat, and tears just because.
It's very nice. I'm actually very impressed.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but, you know, people say that and say that's amazing. But this was blood, sweat, and tears that went into this. Yeah. Yes, there was some money, but there was a lot of emotions going on as well. It was a bit of therapy for me at the time because there was things going on with me. But it's like I always say, and I say this to everyone, you know, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to say, oh, I'm glad I had that room painted or I got the new boiler. You're going to say, wow, I went to this festival. I remember traveling here. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to say we 100%. Should all live in a dump. But you've got to have that.
It is. And I think with the situation that I went through with my mom, it was very much like, you know, when my mum and dad got divorced, it was like, you know, my mum was a single parent, you know, times were hard for us. But going through this process with my mum, it's just like, you know what, you can have the nice cars, you can have this big, amazing house, but, you know, I want to get to my funeral and be like, do you know what, he smashed it. Look at all these photos, look at all these stupid videos, you know, and I've got friends who are so obsessed with like, you know, they've got the Mercedes, they've got like this home, and be like, deep down, they're fucking miserable.
Yeah,
and
right,
miserable, and it's like, you know, you can't take it with you. You know, it's so. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want to live like that and it makes you happy, that's fine. But you know, I'm all for making the memories.
Yeah, I think some of the media and social media as well is to blame for a lot of that, though. To be fair, kids are growing up. They look on their phone. They see these people looking amazing with their cars and everything. That's just a snapshot. You know, they still. You know, they still, you know, wake up feeling like shit some days. They still get depressed, you know, but you don't see that. And then so you want that. And I think, I don't know if I'd like to be a kid growing up in these last few years.
Definitely not. No,
it's
I
harsh.
generally, now it's just me and my sister at home. Like I do worry about stuff like that a lot because, you know, there's pressure even like I'm 30. So I think even there's a pressure on me to look a certain way or behave a certain way, or, you know, I should have a family and kids running around by now. But, you know, for the kids growing up now, it's for like, you have to have the best of everything. You have to, and it's just kind of, I'm glad I grew up sitting in the park playing Pokemon.
Yeah, too.
Jammy.
Yeah.
Now
you put the pressure on yourself because your mind's been brainwashed with, you know, you said about having kids, you should have kids. So then your mind's thinking, oh, I should. Well, who gives a shit? It's not about that. It's what you want. It's your life. But in some ways, it's sank in there, and I think as you get older, you know, I definitely feel like that just goes straight over me now. I just do it. And that's one of the great things about as you get older, you know, but when you're younger and vulnerable, it must be horrible. You know, my son, he's 18. I know you won't believe it because I don't look that old, but he's 18.
No, I was actually quite surprised then. I was like, I wouldn't have expected that.
I know. To take my cap off, I've got no hair on it. But, you know, all I can do is guide him and talk to him. Ultimately, it's his decision. So you hope your parenting kicks in. But if you're a young, vulnerable adult without that love or in a broken home, I think, because like you say, you know, there was times when you were hard. When I grew up in a one-parent family, times were hard. But we'd go out and play football, marbles, kick about in the street. You know what I mean? And we didn't have social media. Now, if you're in a broken home, you're looking at social media, that can really mess your mind up.
Definitely. Do you remember Kirby? Sorry to jump in there.
Yeah, no.
Kirby, I used to like literally throw the ball and try and hit the curb.
Yes.
That needs to come back. You don't see that anymore.
Well, I do now and again when I'm driving past. I'm like, "Oh, you little shits!"
Oh, you're that person.
Yeah, I'm that person that had a go at me when I was that age.
Yeah,
yeah. Not Dora. Let's do not Dora.
Yeah. Oh, I miss those days.
I know. Oh, reminiscing. Anyway, right. Okay. So you've growing up's been, you've found a job that you like, but you've always got this calling for something else. So now, so you talked about your mum and dad splitting up, and obviously you've suffered with mental health. Is this something that triggered your mental health problems?
Now looking back, potentially, but I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of going on. Like when it all happened, I was 15, 16, so I was going through like my GCSE time. So it was very much like, oh, okay, I've got all this pressure of like my exams, and then because I then became like the man of the house, that's why I think I stuck to, working, because then I was able to provide like an income into like the family home and stuff like that. But I don't think there was a huge amount of kind of mental issues involved. I mean, I think there's certain aspects that I look back on now that I feel like, oh, okay, there was a bit of a recurring theme where I tend to kind of not like kind of compare myself to that film Split, but like there's like, there's not that I'm not going to start crawling the wall or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, here's Patricia. But there's like bits of my life that I feel like, oh, okay, I kind of revert back to when I'm like, well, okay, well, you got that version of me got through that part of my life. That's it's like, well, this version of me can get through anything, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's when I was talking to my therapist about it, she kind of gave me a bit of a look as if to say, is this kid all right?
Yeah.
But it was like, that's how I cope. It's like, well, do you know what? I go back to like, it was like, well, I was 16, I was going through a breakup, I was doing my GCSEs. And what that then prepared me to do was to give, when everything happened with my mum, happened the day of my sister starting her GCSEs. So it kind of gave me that resilience and that kind of push to like, okay, keep everything as normal as possible.
Yeah.
Get her through it. Because obviously I was not in that similar situation, obviously, but I think there's just a recurring theme. I think our parents just want us to fail our exams, that they just, they just start some shit before it starts.
Yeah, I think the other thing is as well, when you deal with trauma when you're younger, and I had mine, because you're a kid, and it wasn't really talked about when I was younger, you just crack on.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
And so it's like you've got that spirit. Now that's great, but the problem is the problem's still there, and you haven't dealt with it. So then as you get older and older, something can trigger it to then go,
it snowballs. It literally, it just rolls and rolls. I mean, I've had a huge thing with because growing up, a lot of it was around, my dad used to run a football team, and my little brother was like one of the good players. So, our whole kind of childhood was all about, every weekend it was the football team. It was, the kind of the holidays around the football team. So it was just like, I was kind of always just like at the back burner doing my own thing. So then I've always had this thing like, oh, well, he's always had the attention. I've never had that. Like, do you know what I mean? So even stuff like that, even now to this point, still badly trigger, like to a point where I haven't spoken to my brother for like 3 years. But it's it is what it is. We're all adults now, but it's like you said, it's, back then it was just kind of, you get up, or if you were behaving a certain way, like, or you were having some kind of like traumatic event, it was, oh, he's the naughty kid, or he's the, like, oh, he's just acting up. And it's like, well, actually, look at the reason why he's acting up or behaving a certain way. There was none of really, I don't think there was a lot of that back then.
Yeah. I mean, now there's numerous resources, which is great for kids. which I think is really important. But like you say, back then it's like it's before they sort of diagnose kids with ADHD, isn't it?
Exactly.
This poor kid has got a serious problem, and you're saying he's a little shit.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's one positive about this day and age. So when did it? So your mental health, did it spiral? Sort of. You said your mum was ill. Did that sort of kick everything off?
Yeah. So in May 2017, my mum, she'd been complaining about a bad back for ages. Like she had a slip disc.
Yeah.
So she went and had it operated on, which was the normal kind of standard procedure. She had the operation, she came home. But what was happening, she was a little bit delirious, like she was all over the place. Like I thought she was overdosing on her medication. But what was actually happening was the spinal fluid was leaking.
Oh, God.
And where it had collected around the bottom of the spine, it become infected. So that's why she was a little bit all over the place.
God.
Got her to hospital, and then I was there till about 2:00 in the morning, and then I was like, "Well, I've got to get home because my sister starts her GCSEs the next day."
Oh, God.
So got back, got my sister up, like sent her off to her exams, and then I had a phone call from the hospital to say, Mr. Pattinson, we need to get you to the hospital because we need to make a decision in regards to your mum's brain. And I was like, no, her back. They were like, no, brain. And obviously me being the argumentative twat that I am, I was like, it's her back. Then, got to the hospital and they were like, the fluid has travelled up her spine, caused a blockage, and basically starved the brain of oxygen. So, they put her into a medically induced coma. They were saying stuff to us like brain dead and, life support machines off. No, there's nothing we can do, this, that, and the other. And so it was hands down the worst day of my life. And even that, because obviously that's the only major support that I've ever had is my mum, but nothing could actually prepare to just sitting down and telling my little sister that this is what has happened. That I think was a real turning point, because I felt like, okay, well, if this is going to happen, it's just us two. It is. But then obviously on the back of that, we were in and out of hospitals like 12 hours a day, in intensive care. And I remember they got to a point where my sister was still going through her GCSEs and they were like, there's nothing more we can do. We've got to turn the life support machine off.
Oh, God.
And I practically begged the surgeon to say, look, I don't know, but I need my sister to get through her GCSEs. And he said, yes, okay, we'll keep it on until the end date. So I actually had to give him a copy of my sister's exam schedule. Yeah. But then after that, they turned the life support machine off and she started breathing by herself.
Wow.
She went not from strength to strength, because it has been a fucking long journey in and out of rehabilitation hospitals. Happened in the May, she didn't actually say her first word until October, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we were petrified because we didn't know if she was going to know who we were. I mean, you see it on this morning, that woman came out of a coma and she could speak Chinese. So we were we were petrified, thinking but it's been difficult. I mean, we still have it now. We still get told she's going to die at least 3 times a year. She caught coronavirus this year, and I thought, this is it. I'm back to getting the funeral folder out, planning this again, and So, I mean, but she's still here. She's still.
How old is she?
She is 51.
Young, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know what I mean? And she was the most active woman. She was up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Coffee in hand, fag outside the garden, that was my mom. So, to have it now where, I mean, she's still my mom. Obviously, I'm incredibly grateful. But it's the biggest thing I've had to kind of deal with is the fact that I'm kind of grieving for someone who isn't dead.
Yeah,
and it's what I didn't expect is all the kind of the panic attacks, the trauma, you know, it's these words that you hear on Casualty and stuff, and like you don't expect them to happen to you.
Yeah.
But even now, like if I get a phone call from like an unknown number, or like it's my mum's place where she lives, it's like shit. Like what's happened? It's the worst. But you know, it's brutal. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean, all these things that are happening. Obviously, they put the pressure on, but the anxiety attacks and things like that. I suppose they're all coping mechanisms for you, so you don't have
they are.
You know,
that he got to a stage, and it's something that I do get quite touchy about talking about, because I'm not exactly proud of it, but I was very vulnerable.
Yeah.
In January of this year, Mum had just come out of hospital again, and them saying like, "There's nothing we can do." Like, you know, she's got. What had happened was she aspirated pneumonia, so she's you know, lovely. She swallowed some sick, and basically it's gone down into a lung, you know, as you do. And I was just exhausted, and I was just at that point where, you know, I'm quite a comedic guy, like, but I would find the joke in any kind of horrible, shitty situation, and it wasn't there. I wasn't wanting to go to work. I wasn't wanting to go out, and I had like a few thoughts cross my head, and I was just like, I'm just exhausted. I don't want to live my life the way I'm living it at the minute. Like, it's, you know, I didn't want to continue.
Did you talk to someone?
My friends noticed it. I'm incredibly lucky with, well, even with like the relationship I have with my sister and with like my friend, like I was at that point, and I think they noticed a few things, and one of them pulled me to the side, like invited me round for a beer, and was like, "Look, something's going on." Like, and it all just came out. I completely broke down, and it was probably the lowest that I've been. But it was also probably the biggest turning point in my life to say, like, okay, now you've done the hard work. You've sat there for hours on end, you know, playing music, talking to your mum. Like, the amount of videos I have on my phone, like, to my mum saying, like, squeeze my hand. Like, you know, I had nothing more left to give. I'd run myself down. And, you know, that was the first time I was just like, you need the help. You need, you need someone to kind of pick up the pieces here for you, rather than you doing it for someone else. And I think as males, that's, you know, we do that. We, you know, like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll pick that up. I'll do that. And then, so it was tough to admit that I needed help, but I am so grateful that I did, because it has turned my life around.
That is it. That is a brilliant message. I was speaking with a wonderful lady last week, Emma Tomes, and she deals with mental health and suicide and things like that. And
I watched this episode.
Yeah, and it's like you just said. You've got to speak up. You've got to. You're not alone, but because if you just sit there, your mind will fuck you up. You know, you need
100%.
You need to tell someone, and they'll tell you you're not crazy. It's gonna be all right. You just need that reassurance, and I think that's such a positive thing. What you've said there, the fact that you did talk about it, and you release. You know, you let that.
Yeah.
You say it was such a change. What I take from it is that you finally gave in to trying to.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were trying to stop your mum's problems. You just all the time you got this tension, and you know, oh my God, I could get a phone call, and it sounds like you almost just accepted the situation. You know what I mean?
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
I should have been a therapist, shouldn't I?
You should have been a therapist, because even now, like, when I have these kind of conversations, and you know, they're so important to have, and it's something that I hid away from for a long time. And this is why I'm so grateful now that I'm able to talk about it, and you know, speak to people like yourself, because it's, well, for one, it's like a free therapy session, but two, it's
well, I might start charging you.
Yeah, exactly.
How much is charging? I better get paid a fortune.
Oh my, you're literally extortionate.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of people. I was in that situation where I thought, I'm the only person in the world going through this. I'm the only person in the world who has now had to look after their little sister, who has had to now, you know, cope with what's happened, trying to keep a full-time job, trying to keep everything, all the plates spinning.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until going through that and opening up and admitting that I needed help that it actually introduced me to a lot of people in various, some of them were even, you know, people who I went to school with, that was like, oh, I've looked after my mom since I was like such a young age. And I was just like, we need to start having these conversations, because it's that feeling of being on your own and loneliness that I think is sometimes 10 times worse than the actual mental challenge.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. So now let's get on to the next stage. So obviously, you've got this struggle, and then you have an idea, right? I know I'm going to do a podcast because that's really going to help with the stress levels. So tell us how that came about.
Why. So basically, after January, it was rough. Then I started therapy, and then I went away for a few days with my auntie down to a caravan, like my cousins and stuff, and just because I needed a break. Things have got too much again. I thought I need a few days away, and I had this idea, and I said it to my auntie. I was drunk in like one of those cheesy caravan parks. I said like, look, I've got this idea, and I don't know whether to run with it. And she was just like, what have you got to lose? Like, if anyone, you know, deserves, you know, a little bit of a break, blah blah blah, issue, go for it.
Yeah.
So I thought, do you know what? Fuck it. Go for it.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. So I wasn't able to have the therapy session. So it was either, okay, well, you need to keep it open up and talking about shit, or you're going to go backwards. So it was like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to go for it. So, you know, as you can probably tell, I like to waffle a lot of shit. So it was like, okay, I think that's going to be the name of it. And then it was like, shop was like a place where you go to get your necessities and stuff. So it was like, bam, the Waffle Shop was born. And yeah, it's so fucking cheesy, but it's genuinely turned my life around to a point where it's like, now it's kind of, it's introduced me to a lot of people facing their own mental challenges. It's a, you know, and I get to speak to some fucking incredible guests. So yeah, it baffles me that it's kind of, people actually listen to me. Like, actually want to go out their way to listen to my voice.
There's nothing wrong with that. God, I mean, you're doing far better than me. God help me if anyone starts talking to me wants to listen to my voice. I was listening to the one with Irving Sparks.
Yeah,
love Irving. I love the Uzi Ace. How did you get him on your show? He's great,
mate. Sheer luck. And this is another thing I think has been a huge kind of lesson for me, is like, I never took chances, never took risks, and literally I've never understood the power of a DM on Instagram. I've literally slid my way into so many places. And yeah, I was like, look, you know, I'm a huge fan. I grew up around your music. You know, one of my biggest coping mechanisms is music. So, you know, my headphones are in like all day, every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I thought, do you know what, why don't you reach out to a few of, you know, the people whose music you listen to, this, that, and the other, and see what happens. And the fact that they've said yes is incredible. But yeah, slide into the DMs, because believe me,
people are a lot more accessible now.
And exactly.
Yeah, no, definitely. But remember,
I've took full advantage of this working from home situation.
Yeah, good for you.
Literally,
it's great when you keep. Yeah, I mean, not saying that you would, but when you're doing a podcast and getting paid for it, not that you do a podcast on work time.
Of course.
There's a big wink there if you're not watching the YouTube. But yeah, the Uzi, I'll tell you what I used to love about them, their music videos. They were always creative.
Yeah.
What was the one with the superheroes? I always remember watching that. Mr. A.
Goodbye, Mr. A.
Oh, I used to love them.
Do you know what? I made an absolute tit of myself, though, because I'm doing it again. Like, I get so kind of giddy about talking, because I'm surprised it actually happens.
Yeah.
But when I was going through like my like notes and questions and stuff I wanted to talk about, I thought the one thing I wanted to ask him was he still worried about Ray? So I thought I'm not going to start with that. I'll wait towards the end. He did not find it funny. He did not find it funny at all.
Did you ask him at the end?
Yeah, and he literally said, like, if you had started the interview with that, it would have been very short.
Yes, that's it. Who are you?
But it was actually about anxiety and stuff. So it was, it was on trend. It was like, it was fitting from what I'm doing, but I didn't know about that.
You just took the piss out of him at the end, hey?
Yeah. He giggled, so.
Oh, that's it. These celebs need knocking down a peg or two. They're just human beings like the rest of us, mate, aren't they?
So I think that's what's nice, because I think quite a lot of them I've gotten into, like, oh my God, there's one that I've got for next season.
Yeah.
And I was going to do the like, oh yeah, I'm not going to say who it is because my lips are sealed. Like I'm not. I literally I can't hold my piss. But I'm a huge EastEnders fan.
Yes.
Right. So I got Janine from EastEnders.
Oh, I called that.
And I recorded my own little like duff moment.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I must have like. Well, as soon as that call finished, I must have cried for about an hour, just like, fuck.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, slide into the DMs because...
Yeah, so she just got back to you, just had a chat with her. I suppose the key is if they like you and they feel comfortable, I
think this is what a few people have said to me, and obviously I'm still learning. I still have like bad confidence issues, and, my anxiety is still... It still kicks me on I'm still on like medication daily for it. But there's, I'm not there to like sell something. I'm not there to kind of set someone up for a fall. I'm generally talking to the people like that because I want to talk to them. I want to know about their journey. Like what, when they feel shit, what do they do?
Yeah.
Because I think with mental health, it's so generic, the information, like they tell you to do like breathing exercises and yoga and, shit like that. And it's like, I can't, if I sit and try and practice my breathing techniques, there's a strong chance I'm either going to like suffocate myself or I'm petrified of going to things like, I don't have the body shape for stuff like yoga. Do you know what I mean? I can't do it.
It's what works for you, and everybody's different.
Exactly.
It's what's worked for you. And that's why it's great to have a whole range of different people to talk to. I mean, it's exactly the same. I just love talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's no good saying, oh, I've got this many views, this many numbers. What's the point in doing it for that? You just got to do it. And if it grows, and if people like it and it naturally grows, it naturally grows. But I think
that's what the difference, because the guy who I started the podcast with, he was very kind of obsessed with the numbers. It was like,
did you do a podcast? Did you start it with someone else then?
Yes.
So tell us a bit about this then.
Shit.
You don't just come on. No one's going to listen. I've only got about 5 subscribers.
That's bullshit. That's a lot.
We didn't have to
name. Basically, yeah, I've only started one podcast with one other people, so it's going to be blatantly obvious what I'm talking about. Yeah, so, but he is still I do still class him as a friend, but when I had this idea, a lot of the control wasn't mine. It was like, I spoke to someone and they kind of ran with it. They designed everything. Like I had no access to any of like the social media. I had nothing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like the first one went out and I spoke about, my journey and, what I'd been through like in January, because that was the first time I'd actually told a lot of my friends that was, even family, that was the position that I was in.
Yeah.
And the response we got was fucking insane. Like it was mental. And it wasn't until like the episodes after that it kind of really took off, and people were like messaging saying like, oh, this is great, like, your story, this, that, and my confidence was slowly growing and growing and growing. But I think because of a lot of the kind of feedback and the compliments and stuff was coming towards my way and not someone else's way, it was very kind of awkward, and there was a lot of kind of tension. But we're friends, that's what you did. But
not anymore, you ain't. You've just said he was shit.
No, I wasn't.
I'm joking. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what
it just got very awkward, and it's just, I've had 3 years of kind of being dictated to by people saying like, your mom's going to die, this is going to happen, you need to do this, you need to do that, and my confidence got to a level, and I'm now in a position where to say like, you know what, actually, I don't care whether you're friend, family, whoever you are. If you're not going to support me or be happy for me, or if you're going to limit me in any way, shape or form, I can't have you in my kind of, space. And it's linking it back to kind of like mental health. Like, you need to be surrounding yourself with good people who are on your kind of mindset, who are going to build you up. And unfortunately, I felt that I was being limited. I was being held back. I was being told who I can and can't have on the show, even down to like, you weren't allowed to have women on the show because it might upset someone's girlfriend. And I thought, I was raised by women. Like,
I've already said to my wife, look, I'm getting some hot babies on here.
Exactly. So there we go. And like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't about, I would sit and talk like yourself. I would talk to anyone, whether, male, female, black, all those things. Like, I don't care who you are. If you've got a story to tell or a journey, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'm not being dictated to.
Yeah. Everybody's, look, don't get me wrong. Everybody's got different wants and needs and things like that. But I think it's the freedom. I've had chances at stepping stones where maybe I could have took with other people and collabed, especially in the film world, and they haven't. And I think, do I regret it? And I think you've got to be true to yourself. You've got to be true to yourself. I don't want to collab with someone and my heart's not in it. And it's the same for anything you do. Same with your podcast, whatever you do. If your heart's not in it, it's sort of, you're not being authentic, are you? And you know that.
That's exactly what it is.
You might put a face on. Yeah. You might put a face and say, oh, I'm really enjoying this. But inside, your mind's going, you're a lying bastard. And I think, and as you get older, I keep saying as you get older, it's just making an excuse for me getting older. But you just think, fuck that. You know what I mean?
It is. I turned 30 in lockdown, and I don't know what it was, but it was like a switch had been flipped, because I was like, do you know what? Fuck the lot of yous, because I am not going to literally live the rest of my life. Like, I've done so much for my friends and my family, whether it's, financially, mentally, physically, anything. Like, I'm always the guy who organizes like the nights out. I'm always the one who organizes the gigs, the festivals. I've paid for friends to go to festivals. I've paid for them to go to gigs. And do you know what? Where's he got me? Yeah. And now I'm in this situation where it probably sounds like I'm being a bit of a dick, and I don't. It's just, but it's what's right for me at the minute.
Yeah. It's what's right.
The headspace I'm in.
It's what's right for you. And I think, and the other thing is, I mean, I've had this conversation before. Is, and I'm similar. I'm the one always making the phone calls, catching up with people and things like that. And it gets to a point where you think, well, look, I can't constantly be the one making moves and organising things. I need it reciprocated. I need something back. And you do get to a point where you just think, look, fuck that. You know what I mean? And I could.
But that's when it becomes the problem, I've noticed, because it's when, and and I think it goes back to, again, like, even when I was growing up, like, because I've always wanted other people to be happy, but it's come at a cost of my own happiness. And then when I was having these therapy sessions, it was becoming quite clear that I didn't know what actually made me happy. So then it kind of, when I found something that genuinely made me happy, and it's given me like a real, like, I found like a newfound passion for it. And I'd even go to a certain level to say, like, I've actually found for the first time in my life a bit of a talent that I didn't kind of know I had. And then to kind of have that kind of negativity from such a close kind of proximity, it was very much like, okay, no, this isn't, like you said, like, my heart's not in this. Like, I need to make myself happy, because ideally, like, if you can't make yourself happy, like, I don't really see, now looking back, like, what a massive fucking waste of time that was.
The ironic thing is, those people look at you like shit, and you're like, hold on, I've been organising everything for the last 10 years. What a fucking, when are you ever said, "Oh, come along to this," or "I've sorted this night out." You think, "Fucking hell." But everyone. I'm not. Look, we're moaning. I'm not moaning, but everyone's different. But it's nice that now you've took time in your life to just concentrate on you. And that's part of your therapies, because if you're doing that, you're constantly thinking about everyone else, and you're trying to cope with all this shit that's happening as well.
And I have that ingrained in me anyway, because even every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is check my phone to see if there's any missed calls or anything from like my mom. Like, that's where my head immediately goes. So then when you add it, like the layers of pressure on top, it's drowning. It's like, if you're not taking that time out for yourself and doing what's right for you, like you hear once, it's cheesy as anything, but like you hear once, like, do what the fuck you want and make yourself happy.
And I think the key is as well, if you don't, eventually your brain will give in and you'll have a mental breakdown, and then you're no good to anyone.
Exactly.
So anyway, right. So that's the Waffle Shop. Where do you see it going in the future then? So we've got Janine coming on. Woo! Where do you see it, or do you just want to organically grow it?
So I'm very excited for season 3. Very, very excited. Like, I've got a lot, like, I'm getting really excited because I've got a lot of really good stuff coming up, and I'm really excited to kind of get it out there. And even from like season 2 with the guests that I had, it opened a lot of doors in terms of guests and like just being more visible and like getting my story out there and stuff. So, I mean, I'm not looking for sort of like any kind of end goal. Like, don't get me wrong, it would be nice to get paid for it because it is draining me at the minute. But I love it. So I don't know. It would be nice to have a yacht maybe at the end.
You want a man cave. That's what you want, like this. You want your little man cave.
I have a little bit of an outhouse on the back of my kitchen, and it is just full of absolute shit. And I'm looking at like your man cave now, and just thinking,
do it.
Do you know what? Do it.
I'll help you. Whatever you need. I'm an ex-carpenter. I can knock a couple of bits of wood up.
You are going to regret saying that.
I'm only saying it for the podcast. After this, I'll never speak to you again. Now, I'll tell you what, the other thing is, I mean, this is great, but it's not soundproof. I mean, the mic's fairly good. So, but when my chickens are squawking and the dogs are barking, it's like, for fuck's sake. I wish I was in this little cocoon, little soundproof box. You see these people in these soundproof boxes, don't you? I know what that's all about. Lock on the door. Bye-bye. Big red light outside. You say to the family, you say to the wife, red light on, can't come in, sorry. You just sit there.
Actually, just sat in there with a pat noodle.
Even though you ain't doing a podcast, you're just watching Netflix with a red light on. It'd be great. You just need non-sweet. I need non-sweet in here. I'm sorry. My son's doing me head in. Anyway, that's an 18-year-old for you. So that's the future. So just let it flow and see where it goes and keep booking great guests.
Exactly. And I think I just want to really continue with this whole kind of, because I am on a journey trying to sort my own head out. There's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of trying to unpick and, kind of really just kind of put to bed and process and stuff like that. So, I just want to continue kind of doing what's right for me and making me happy. And if it's helping other people, like, that's one thing that has really took me by surprise. The fact that, it's kind of built up a bit of a safe space for other people to like message. And, I get a lot of, messages from people to say like, oh, I'm going through this. Like, do you mind talking about it? I was like, no, definitely not. Like, that's what it was for, because I was in that place that I felt like I had no one to talk to. So, yeah, I think just see what happens. Keep going the way I'm going, and
just
keep chatting shit.
Just keep doing what you're doing, I think. And we all have those days. You're going to have days where you feel like shit, but you're on the right way. You're on the right path. And I think it's when you're not on the right path and everything's coming to a head, there's no way out. That's when you proper struggle. But you're obviously, just chatting to you today, you're on the right path. So it's just you're going to have deviants now, little deviations now and again, but get back to the path and just keep doing what you're doing.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. So, advice-wise, then, what sort of advice? If someone is, well, let's do two bits of advice. One, if someone is struggling with their mental health, and and also advice if they want to start a podcast. So, what advice would you give someone if they were struggling with mental health?
First up, talk about it. Don't let it kind of eat away at you. Don't let it define who you are. I can't tell you, even if it's just a case of reaching out and just chatting absolute shit to your mates, even if it's just that little bit of a release, it means you're not bottling it up. You're kind of getting things off your chest. So always reach out. There's one bit of like my friend said it to me in early on, and it's getting to a stage where I hate saying it now because it literally is a real thing in the back of my mind, was that I would rather be reading your text messages than reading something at your funeral. It literally, it hits me like a ton of bricks every time I hear it. But yeah, reach out. There's always someone at the end of the phone. There's so many different kind of support networks out there with, like Samaritan's Mind. There's so many good platforms out there. There's no judgment. There's no, especially like for men, like there's, just admit that things are a bit shit. Your mate's probably going to be grateful that you are opening up because they're probably feeling the same thing, and like they feel a bit shit. So definitely open up and reach out.
Good. And then if someone is crazy enough to start a podcast, what advice could you give them?
Do it by yourself.
Yeah, we've already said about your mate being useless. Yeah.
No, I think if it's something that you really want to do and and you feel like real passionate about it, even if you just want to try it, like do it, because one thing I didn't realize is how easy it is to actually like set it up and like get things going, and it is literally just like a therapy session, even if no one listens to it. Like you literally just sit there and just like chat shit for like 15-20 minutes or however long you want to like do it, like because for me, like I look back at like little episodes that I've done and feel like, oh, well, do you know what, like look how far you've come from that now. Like, so it is like, it's so therapeutic. So I advise anyone to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing for me, why I enjoy it, is when I'm doing the radio, you have to have sort of that energy, and it's almost another person. Because it's like, right, oh, this is happening. This is, and it's a bit annoying. I enjoy the radio, don't get me wrong, but what I love about podcasts is just like you talking to a mate down the pub and just chatting. You don't need to put any bullshit on. You just chat. And like you say, it's like the other day we came back, me and we went and watched Tenet, and we came back and we just talked shit for an hour about the film because it was so fucking frustrating.
I was about to ask you then, like, is it, because I've heard it's a bit, but all his films are like that, aren't they?
Well, look, I love Nolan. I'm a massive fan, and being a filmmaker, I can see other things, and it's annoying at times because I'm not just a viewer, just watching a film. I'm looking at other things.
Well, you're in that kind of industry, aren't you? So like,
but I loved it, and I was following it, and I was like really happy. I was like, I'm following this. I know what's going on. People are saying this is too complicated. Got to about an hour and a half. Some app, I was like, what the fuck? How come he's going backwards? He's going forward. She's going, what the fuck, Chris? And my lad came out and said he hated it. My wife said she enjoyed it, which is a miracle because.
Oh wow!
But she said she didn't understand it, but she enjoyed it. But we had that chat, and I thought, what? I wish I'd have just recorded us. And that's ultimately what a podcast is. Just talking and having a discussion. I really wish, because we had a cracking chat. I wish I'd have just came in here quick, get the microphone out. But we'd lost that. But that's what a podcast is. So and you can record on your phones. There's no excuse now, so we can record on phones. And so good advice. Anyway, that went completely different direction. Right, so now we always ask guests for a favourite. So it could be a film, TV show, song, anything like that, just something that's accessible so people could listen to it or watch it. Have you brought a favourite or thought of a favourite today?
So I struggled with this question because
Ooh.
I have a lot. I think because my immediate kind of view went straight to music.
Okay.
But I have so many favorites that I was genuinely really struggling.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of kind of like the old school kind of big kind of powerhouse kind of like vocals and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not fair. It's not even that like old school, but I don't know why I'm going down this route, but like I've been listening to a lot of old 90s house, like music at the minute, like a lot of like Robin S. and
yes,
and I don't know what it is. It's just at the minute, it just feels like a very much like a bit of a comfort blanket. It's a bit of kind of, it's like a bit of a happy place because that's what I grew up around. And it was the same with like the specials and, you know, that kind of era.
Yeah.
And I was trying to pinpoint like one like specific like favorite, but I just think they just don't make music the way they do, like in the way like in the 90s and stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's what my favorite is.
So you
90s.
get in your car, you put some music on, you can pick any song you want. What's it going to be? Oh, come on.
You know, one that I absolutely love, and it's not so much from the 90s, this one, but I think it's just a real hit. It's Forever Young by Jay-Z and Mr. Hudson.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but that song is just, you know...
Great song.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I'm a bit of a music geek. So when it's like, you know, you listen to the lyrics and like the meanings and stuff behind it, and it's just like, yeah.
Yeah,
that's my go-to.
Great song. What I love about music, and a lot of people talk when I ask them about favourites, films, TV, think visual. But what I love about music, you can be in a supermarket and hear a song, and it can take you back 20 years. You know what I mean? It's powerful stuff.
It's a good thing. But one of the last gigs I took my mum to was Adele. I took my mum to see Adele, and literally she's always said like, I either want Hometown Glory or literally at my funeral. And when you're actually in that position where you're actually planning your mum's funeral, I was in Asda doing the weekly shop, and that song came on the radio. I think I was just down like, I was looking at like Uncle Ben's Rice or something, and that song came on, and I was literally, I had to take my sunglasses out of my pocket and put them on my face. I was just like, shit.
Yeah,
it's powerful, but it's
it goes both ways. But when it's so powerful, you've almost got to think, well, why is it so powerful? But it is difficult. My mum, God bless her, she left the earth a long time ago, and God, she loved music. Elvis, it was a nightmare for me because what you've just said, she loved every fucking Elvis. I mean, Elvis, you walk in the fucking middle of the street, you hear Elvis, you know, Phil Collins, a fucking nightmare. So basically, I had that what you had. And in the end, I just had sensory overload every time I went somewhere. It's fuck it.
This is why I really struggled talking about it, because it's like when I was a guest on someone else's, and they said like, oh, they wrote a book, something like the music of my life, and they were saying like, oh, you know, what's your music taste? And I was just like, I hate that question, because it will literally go from like Pitbull to the Stone Roses to like the Chili Peppers to like Adele, and it's like to like Steps. It's like it's I will listen to anything
that's good. Apart from any current day shite. Which my son keeps telling me to listen to, which is horrendous.
It's all just like, it's all just talking.
I'll literally say, "Oh, can I go in the man cave?" He comes in here, I'll be out there, and I'll just do. It's crap, and that's me being old and right.
No, I think it's you having taste. That's the difference. Yeah, because I'm with you on that.
Hey, what's happening with Adele anyway? Because she's lost a lot of weight now. She looks great. But is she going to do an album?
I hope so, because I remember, like, I went to see her when she first came out, when she was just released 19,
That must
and
have been amazing. Yeah.
it was, and then to see her when she did 25, I think, and obviously with like Someone Like You and all those kind of, no, it wasn't that, was it?
No, that was the later one, wasn't it?
That was yeah. Um, oh shit! Oh,
Oh
hello,
yeah.
and all that. Those kind of songs. So to see it from that to then to, like, I saw it when, I think it was in London. I saw it. There was like 50, 60 people in the crowd. To
Oh
then
my
seeing it like selling
God.
out like arenas. Like, I mean, I'm talking as if I know her. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
But like, I hope so, because I love shit like that.
Her voice is just so powerful, isn't it? I always say people like that, I'd love to get a private function. I mean, that ain't going to happen. But you imagine having a private function and she walks on stage and her
Oh,
voice just boom would be
don't know. Like, if the
awesome.
guests that I've had on, I'm hoping to like pull a few strings down the line.
Yes.
I've got a 30th birthday that I need to make up for, so
Yeah.
see if I can pull
I
a
look,
few strings.
if I get any links to her, I'll fire her your way.
There you go. Huge fan of the Hoosiers, you say?
Uh,
I'll make a note of that
he
one.
will. He probably, yeah. If he didn't like you asking that question about Mr. A, he ain't gonna like me, is he?
Yeah, he's never going to talk to me again.
Anyway, right. So, thanks ever so much for coming on today. Now, I always ask my guests sort of a poignant note to finish on, or a story, or advice, or whatever you want to say. Have you got something you'd like to finish on?
I think it's, again, cheesy anything, but just do what's right for you.
Yeah.
Like, we are in this generation of, like, everyone's telling us what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And, there is so much pressure at the minute from, like, whether it's the government or work or just, whatever it is. If it's making you happy, just run with it.
Yeah.
And don't let anyone tell you differently.
Definitely.
I think.
Good advice. And if people want to get a hold of you or go onto your podcast, what's all your links and things like that?
Yeah, so I'm on like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at the Waffle Shop podcast, on Spotify, Google, Apple, all that, the usual, wherever you listen to them, just give it a search. But yeah, if you're struggling or you fancy just having a waffle, obviously drop me a message, because I just love talking absolute shite. So
yes,
just get in touch.
Well, look, hopefully we can collab or do something in the future, definitely, because I've loved having you on, and it's such a good story.
I'd love to. My face hurts. Like,
yeah.
I'm not used to smiling this much.
No, it's nice. It's nice because the thing is, we've covered some, some dark places, but the key is, the voice is positive, and that's the key. I mean, I put that on the podcast. We're going to cover some shit. We're going to cover some dark times.
Yeah.
But you've got to come out with something positive, because if someone's listening to this and they're struggling, you want them to think, "Oh, hold on a second, I can talk to someone. I'm not alone."
Yeah.
And that's the key, having that turn. So
negatives to positives, always.
Yes. Right. Well, look, thank you ever so much for coming on, Taylor. An absolute joy and a laugh. And I'm sure we'll definitely do some together again. God help the people. But take care and look after yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yes, mate. And you.
So that's it. Massive thanks again to Taylor James for joining me today, and also you for listening. Make sure you follow the podcast, because coming over the next month, there are even more extraordinary interviews. The podcast will be streaming on the usual platforms, including iTunes and Spotify. So please leave a rating on there and subscribe. It is important. To keep up to date with Facebook, then it's My Way of Thinking podcast. And also I'm on Twitter, which is My Way of Thinking, without a G on the end, a 3 instead. Every week, I'll also put the whole conversation on YouTube. If you want to look for that, that's My Way of Thinking podcast. And finally, if you want to get in touch, or think you may be a great guest, then email me mawatpodcast@aol.com. Also, be aware I'm going to be doing a Q&A about the podcast shortly. So if you're thinking of any questions, then please drop me a line with those in as well, and I'll give you a shout out because people keep asking me, what's it all about? What's it all about? What's it all about? Anyway, until next time, God bless and take care.